Good morning. Good morning. If everyone could get whatever extra bits of coffee or water, we're so excited to see everyone here this morning for the 7th annual Muncie State of the Child Address. My name's Tammy Silverman, and I have the honor of serving as the President and Chief Executive Officer of Indiana Youth Institute. And today we're going to every year, we kind of think of ways that we can improve and advance this experience for all of us. So I'm going to give you a little run of show. I'm going to give you a little framing of the data, and then I'll let you know how we're going to move, because we are going to move around a little bit this morning. So get ready. So right now is your time to eat and drink, and then we're going to get up and interact with each other. So first of all, like I said, I'll give you a little bit of framing for this year's data so that you can get kind of those big takeaway messages of what we're talking about and what are the trends going on. Then we are going to break up into what we are calling a data walk. This is one of 17 of these presentations that we're doing around the state, and we have found that by actually moving around and having those smaller conversations around chunks of the data, you can ask those questions, and you can hear questions that some of your colleagues are asking as well about the data. So there's a whole little system we're going to use that has to do with that color that's on your table, and we'll share more of that. Then we're going to come back together, and we're going to hear from someone that is a leader in the youth services field right here in your own community. You all know Watasha probably pretty well, and we are excited to have her talk about how that data really comes to life. One of the things that we love to remind ourselves and everyone else about is there are going to be a lot of numbers. We're going to show a lot of data and a lot of information today. We are so passionate about it because the data represents the shared experience of kids across our state and in our neighborhoods. So these just aren't numbers for numbers' sake. These are actually the experiences of our kids. So we want to bring that to life so that you can remember that. We're also going to weave in a couple of our colleagues and friends that are on the IYI team. We have pretty much our whole data team here that has gone through the entirety of bringing this data together and making sure it's clean and accurate, and they can answer lots of deep questions if you have those. We're also delighted to have two of our board members with us today. Mia Johnson from Ivy Tech is with us, and we're delighted to see her this morning, as well as one of our crucial board members is Julie Metzger, and she is really the spark that started this whole State of the Child. Muncie brought it here and has continued to feed and help it grow. So you'll see her come up in just a little while. So that's kind of the run of the show. So we're going to talk a little bit, get up and move, and then we're going to hear from Julie and then Watasha, and then we'll send you on your way. And you can grab some more of those delicious cinnamon rolls or fruit or coffee as you go. Does that sound like a game plan for the morning? Great. So I would be remiss if we did not start with the thank yous. You know, I know that is a part of none of us do this work in isolation. So first and foremost, we have some partners that came together, again, to think about what does this year mean. So I want to thank the Heart of Indiana United Way. I know that some of those folks are under the weather this morning and are regretful that they cannot be here, particularly Jenny Marsh. The George and Frances Ball Foundation is another one of those crucial partners that helps us each year think about what does this mean and how can we really activate and bring this data home to improve our services, as well as the Ball State University Office of Community Engagement. We are really honored to be back in this tremendous space. I want to thank all of you. Who here works directly with kids, youth, or students? Yeah. We are here to honor your work as well. IYI exists in order to serve youth workers and youth serving organizations. This is one of the ways we hope we can equip you with information to further your missions. So we are inspired by everything that you do, and we are here to help you advance those missions and make sure each one of the kids that we touch and that lives in our hearts can reach their full potential. Our mission is really centered around strengthening children and youth by working through all of you. We're an intermediary, right? So many of us provide a direct service. We don't serve kids directly. We serve youth workers and youth serving organizations. So we strengthen and connect people, organizations, and communities in settings just like this. They're here, there are people, there are organizations, and this community has shown up this morning. We do that by educating, equipping, and engaging. So today we're going to do all of those things. So we're going to provide a little bit of education, what's new in the data. We're going to give you tools, and then we're going to say, let's talk. Let's be in conversation with one another this morning and as we ripple out. And why do we do this work? We all have whys. At Indiana Youth Institute, one of the whys that we have is because we were kids too, right? We were kids. And we can probably think about, these are some of our staff members when they were kids, and we were touched by youth workers and youth serving organizations that helped us grow and mature. So do you remember your childhood? For some of us, it's been a little longer than others. Some of you, it wasn't that long ago. But, when we were kids, those were days when we played with our friends. We might have sold Girl Scout cookies. We might have volunteered at a local community program. We watched Saturday morning cartoons. And yes, I always tell my kids they did just used to be Saturday mornings. They weren't all the time streaming. It was a big deal, Saturday morning. And those were the days when really anything seemed possible. And there were still big dreams. The world was ours for the taking. Do you remember your dreams? Do you remember those early career aspirations that you had and what those might have been? For some, it was to play, I'm an IU alum, so I say, for some it was to play basketball. I know the tournament started, and I know we should be cheering for Purdue in that tournament. So maybe it was to play basketball for Purdue. Maybe it was to play volleyball for Ball State, which I've heard is one of your areas of strength for sure. For others, it was to be an astronaut or a doctor or a teacher. I grew up in a family of teachers. For me, it was to be a teacher or an Indy car driver. When we were at the State House a couple weeks ago, for some of those folks, it was to be a legislator or to be a governor. There are a few folks that still want to do that, and they're clamoring around, and they were there with us, and we were delighted. We had those dreams where we wanted to walk across a graduation stage. Maybe we wanted to travel the world. We wanted to start a career. We wanted to have a family. We wanted to do those things where we had friends and hobbies and communities where we felt like we belonged and that felt like home for us. And now we do that work so that we can ensure the next generation can have those same feelings. We're here because we want every single child to have those dreams. And we want more of them to be able to realize their dreams. And that's why we do this work. There are currently in Indiana 1.5 million children, and we know that our younger generations are more diverse than our adult populations. And they are inheriting a world that is incredibly different from the one we grew up in, whether that was just many decades ago or just a few. Today, young people face challenges that we could not have imagined, and you all are helping them through those challenges. Of course, we know that their lives were disrupted by a global pandemic. Classes were moved to Zoom, ball games and school dances were canceled. Opportunities to make friends and to find those meaningful connections were delayed. And today, life is just different. Our kids don't know a life before technology, before cell phones, before iPads, before all of those things. And social media. They can use Google and artificial intelligence to help them with their homework. Whether that's allowable or not is another discussion for another day. And whether that's good or not is yet to be seen. They've grown up online, and we know that that is not easy for them. But think about what we've experienced and those changes, and think about what changes they will see in their lifetime. There are a tremendous number of possibilities, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and they are keenly aware of that. That's why this conversation is so important each year. To prepare Indiana's young people for what comes next, we need to better understand what they are going through today. Not what we think they're going through, not what the kids we most interact with are going through, but what all of our kids are going through. And that's the purpose of the State of the Child Address. Every year, IYI publishes the Kids Count Data Book. The 2024 Kids Count Data Book is out. It's online. We have a QR code. It's on our website. It is our 30th edition of the Kids Count Data Book. We've been doing this for a hot minute. I have not been doing it for 30 years, nor have any of our team members, but we've been doing it for a while because we know understanding the evidence and the facts about our kids are important. The Kids Count Data Book is one of those tools that can tell us where we're on the right track and maybe where we need to lean in just a little bit more. So today I am proud and delighted to say that Indiana has moved up to 24th in the overall national rankings. That is up from 28th just last year. That is one of the highest jumps Indiana has ever seen. Also important to know, Indiana moved up in every single category. Every single category. Yes. Thank you, Dr. K, for starting that. That is a good celebration. We moved up in every single category, and that's important. We currently rank 13th for education, 16th for economic well-being, 29th for health, and 31st for family and community. There's lots to be encouraged by in these results. Compared to the United States, Indiana has fewer children living in poverty and fewer children whose parents lack secure employment. Good stuff. And there's more good news. Food insecurity in Indiana for kids is down, and the number of children with health insurance is down to only 6%. Good. That's good stuff. Here in Indiana, we've also seen a reduction in the rates of juvenile recidivism, and there are fewer children in need of services and fewer children living in foster care. All good news for our kids. We've also seen a historic decline in behaviors that we've long discouraged. The teen birth rate is in decline. So are the rates of underage drinking, smoking, vaping, and illicit drug use. All have gone down. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Yes, yeah, I see. That's good stuff, right? Again, we've been doing this work, and we don't always have all of this good news to share. Our younger generations are learning. They're smart. They're bright. They know. They're learning from some of the things we've done. Lastly, I will say another piece of encouraging news is that the graduation rates are up. In the class of 2023, 88.9% of our students across the state graduated from high school, and that is the highest rate since 2016 and the third highest rate since we have been tracking those numbers. And hang on, because this is exciting. In Delaware County, you all were better than the state rate, and you were at 90.8%. So not only are these numbers terrific, but you're outpacing the state. These are reasons to be hopeful, right? These are reasons to be excited. These are fuel for us to keep doing the work we're doing. They are proof that we can move the needle and that by working together, we can make a huge impact. That's why I can clearly state that in Indiana, the state of the child is good. Yes, but not yet good enough, right? Not yet good enough, and you all know this. You know this. 24th in the country is kind of in the middle. It's really in the middle. And we know that being a kid in Indiana can be terrific. We know that being a kid in Delaware County can be terrific. And we know also that it is not yet that way for each and every child. So we have more work to do. We all want the best for our kids, and we should expect nothing less. So when we think about the issue of education, Indiana ranks 13th in the country. I said that is our highest ranking, right? And that's significantly higher than our overall ranking of 24th. But that doesn't mean we should stop there, and I know for sure that does not mean that things are stopping here in Delaware County. In Delaware County, we need to also make sure we are clear-eyed about the fact that 47% of children ages 3 and 4 are not in pre-K. 64% of the county's 3rd through 8th graders are not proficient in language arts. And 60% of 3rd through 8th graders are not proficient in math. So again, that data is important, and when you translate that into a group of 10 kids or 20 kids, and you look at the faces of those kids, we know what they need to succeed. They need to be able to read, and they need to be able to read to learn, and they need to know math. So there's more work to be done. We know that we can do better. We are very much in partnership and in celebration with the state of Indiana, the Indiana Department of Education, and Lilly Endowment for investing a historic $111 million in early literacy for our state. They have a goal of ensuring that 95% of those 3rd graders can read by 2027. That's not that far off, but think of that difference in proficiency. So we've got some great things going on in our state, and we've got some strong backing to help us make it happen. In Delaware County, you have some of those great resources here as well. The George and Frances Ball Foundation, their collective impact approach through the Cradle to Career Muncie is one of those really innovative initiatives that is strengthening the culture of education. So again, I want to give them a round of applause and thank them for being here and all the work that they are doing. So we know that we can champion those success stories. It can be both, yes, a celebration and we also know the numbers and the data. Here in Indiana, unfortunately, the rate of child and teen deaths is higher than the national average, and the infant mortality rates are on the rise. When we break down that data by race and ethnicity, Black and multiracial infants are nearly 3 times as likely to die before their first birthday than white infants in our state. Right. That is another one of those disparities that is so very long overdue for change. There's also the issue of what happens after high school. Our data shows that in recent years, 8.2% of Delaware County's 16 to 24-year-olds, often referred to in the sector as opportunity youth, were not working and not attending school. That's 8.2% of our kids that need a purpose, that need engagement. I will say kudos to Delaware County. That is lower than the state rate of 11.6%. So you've got some good things going. Just how do we continue to move those forward? We know those kids need opportunities. That work begins with all of us, right? This is not the work of this group or that group. It's the collective work of each and every one of us. So whether you're a youth worker or a teacher or a corrections officer, a community leader, an elected official, we're all in it together. And it all serves all of our best interests to collaborate and coordinate. Too many children in Indiana live in a neighborhood that does not have an after-school program, that doesn't have a rec center. They might not have a library. They might not even have a sidewalk. In fact, for every Hoosier child in an after-school program, 3 more are waiting to get in. So you think about those kids that are waiting and think about everything that they're missing. Almost 30% of Indiana's young people ages 6 to 17, so it's a pretty big group, 6 to 17, 30% told not IYI, but the folks doing the surveys, that they had not participated in any organized activity, outside of school or on the weekends during the past year. Think about your programs and all that that does for those kids ages 6 to 17. So 30% weren't getting any of that. Today's young people, they need resources and they need role models. And that's how we can all play a role. So whether it's Project Leadership, Motivate Our Minds, Purdue Extension, the Ross Center, so many other organizations that are here today, we all provide those invaluable opportunities and we can all be part of the solution. And we're all gonna have to be. In some ways, it's never been easier to be a kid. And in some ways, it's never been more challenging. We can already see the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on adverse childhood experiences. The pandemic affected society where we were already most at risk. More children witnessed domestic violence in their homes, and more children lived with someone battling substance use disorder. And when they returned to the classroom, they brought that trauma with them. Those of you working in classrooms, you know this. Since the pandemic, we've seen a rise in the incidence of bullying and in the number of students who were suspended or expelled from school. They're telling us they need help. It's going to take a real effort to help young people adjust to life after the pandemic. And that begins by addressing mental health. We know it's an issue. You've all heard of the youth mental health crisis, and here's what we know. The percentage of high school and middle school students who reported feeling sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks increased in our state to 36% in 2022. 36% of our kids. In Delaware County, that was 32%. A third of our kids. A third of our kids. Today, Indiana ranks 10th for children at risk of depression, and as a state, we're 15th for youth at risk of suicidal ideation. Those were middle and high school kids who told us they had seriously considered taking their own life. That's 1 in 7. That's 1 in 7 middle and high school students. So again, you think about the kids in your programs. If you go to a ball game and count through 7, that means it's kids that we all know. That's kids that you know. I know it's kids that my children have known. And that, honestly, is a tragedy that we rarely had to deal with, which is unfortunately becoming commonplace for our youth. We know that middle and high school is tough. Right? It's awkward, it can be difficult. Part of that growing up really stinks sometimes. However, it is never supposed to be life-threatening. We're only really beginning to understand the youth mental health crisis and the role of the pandemic and of social media algorithms. And at the same time, while we don't entirely understand it, we must take action. Our youth mental health to provider population ratio is one of those areas where we can make a difference. And ours, unfortunately, in Indiana, far exceeds our surrounding states, which means we simply do not have enough providers. We can do that by providing access to school-based mental health services. In Delaware County, Muncie Community Schools are doing an incredible job at that. So round of applause for them for recognizing and acting. And I know they do that in partnership with Meridian, and we appreciate all of that collaboration. Again, there are models going on here in Delaware County that the rest of the state can and is learning from. In addition to talking about everything going on with our kids, we should also be celebrating all of us and all of you who work with our kids, our youth workers. Because this impact of the out of school time and after school and juvenile justice and recreation, all of that doesn't happen just spontaneously. It happens because of you. And we know we need to support you as well. So last year, Indiana Youth Institute, along with our partners, Indiana After School Network, so that's IARCA, let me get all of our acronyms right, IYSA, IARCA, McCoy, as well as the After School Network and IYI, we launched the first in the country Youth Worker Wellbeing Project. It is a $20 million initiative to care for our caregivers. We started in January by offering virtual telehealth and virtual mental health services for youth workers. Since January 1, we have enrolled 11,000 youth workers from across our state. It is no cost to the providers. Those are from 200 organizations, including 9 from here in Delaware County. And if your organization is not aware of that, let us know, and we can talk to you about how you too can make sure that your youth workers have access to those services. One of the other things that's really awesome about that is that there are also grants available for you, for each youth serving organization, to advance your trauma-informed care response within your organization. Those grants are open right now, and they're not due until April 15th, so you got a little time. So again, go to our website. If you're not aware of them, we would love to see you apply for those. Finally, we need to talk about one last crisis that's facing our kids in Indiana, and that you know well in this community. I know you are in conversation about it because I get updates all the time from our great folks here, and that's access to early childhood education. While the cost to provider ratio, which is one of those data things which you can dive in deep with our folks, it actually declined here in Delaware County. Y'all are moving in the right direction. At the same time, Indiana remains one of 33 states where infant care is more expensive than tuition at a 4-year public institution. Right. One kid, right? The estimated demand for early childhood programming in Indiana is nearly double its capacity. And of the programs that are available, only half are considered high quality. And we know that that is unfair to our kids. We know that children who have access to early childhood education are less likely to drop out of school. It impacts their long-run success. We know they are more likely to contribute to society, and we know that for every dollar invested in early childhood education, there is a return of $4. So it makes it a very wise investment. It's an investment in our future. We know that. It's a workforce issue because it frees up parents to go to work. If parents, they need to feel safe and secure with what's happening to our kids. It's an economic issue because it attracts businesses to our communities if there is access to high quality childcare. Makes sense, right? I see a lot of head shaking. Yeah, we know that. But at its heart, it's saying how we value our children. Are we preparing them to be successful in the future? It's whether we are providing the kind of education and care they deserve or whether we are falling short. So today's results show improvement. They show improvement. And that's because of all of us that are in this room. But as I close, I really do want to challenge you. When Indiana's kids, or Delaware County's kids, or your neighborhood's kids aren't reading at grade level, if they're struggling with mental health, that's the responsibility of all of us. You've all probably heard the saying of, there's no such thing as somebody else's children. They're our community's children. So at the end of the day, the state of the child is really a report card for adults. This is our report card. How are we doing for our kids? And I want you to think about what that means. Almost 80% of Indiana high school students, 80%, report spending 3 hours a day on screens outside of schoolwork. So you can't even say it's because I had to do my schoolwork, because my son has tried that many times. They report spending 3 hours a day. 3 hours a day. We know that our younger generations have fewer friends than prior generations, and they are less likely to date. And that is all part of social development, as we all know. Instead, they are staying home, they're staying in their rooms, they're staying on their screens, they're staying on YouTube or playing video games or TikTok or whatever that is. And they seem is the key word, to lack purpose and direction. But when you engage them, you can see that is not true. They have unlimited capacity. We often get on them about being on their screens all the time. I'm guilty of that as a mom. And at the end of the day, we know that they are modeling what they're seeing from us. They didn't create these problems. They're mirroring the behavior that they have seen from adults in their lives. Today's children are a reflection of what we do and how we act. The state of the child is also the state of our society. It's the state of our schools, our economy, and our healthcare systems. It's what we tolerate and what we prioritize. And it's the legacy that we're leaving behind. That's why it's important for the adults in this room, and as you will hear, Watasha is one of those shining examples, to be a role model, to set a good example, to interact with our kids instead of handing them a tablet, to have real conversations, to have deep conversations. Kids can go really deep really quickly, and we all probably know that. It's also to give them those real responsibilities, because they are up to the challenge when we pave the way for them to do so. We've dedicated our careers to serving kids, and that should not end when we leave here today. I started by saying, do you remember your childhood? And I want you to remember some of those best days. Think about a great day when you were a kid. And think about a couple of the worst days. Today's children will face some disappointments. We're not talking about being helicopter parents or snowplow parents or any of that. Disappointments and recovering from those are part of growing up. They may fail a big test, that's normal. They may get cut from a team. They may get dumped by their crush or their seemingly crush from high school or middle school or whatever that is. We're not looking to guarantee a happy childhood. Ups and downs are part of development, but we can be there to listen. We can be there to open new doors, to show them new opportunities. We can be there to help them overcome those adversities, and we can be there to celebrate and teach them how to thrive. That should be our calling as a group. Help them reach their full potential. Let them see and know that we believe in their capacity to do anything and everything that they want to do. Most of us shifted away. We didn't end up being IndyCar drivers or playing on a basketball team. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. All of those kinds of things. We didn't go into outer space. Hopefully our kids will go to Mars or wherever the next big deal is, right? Instead, we became, and we're still becoming, the best versions of ourselves who are showing up for our kids and our communities. So the state of the child in Indiana is good. And it could be even better. This is the group that's going to do it. So thanks so much for that framing. Hope you got some information out of it. Now we're going to stand up and go deep into the data. So before you stand up, and thank you, I see, thank you for acknowledging our work. So thank you. I'm good without applause. I'm good. No, I'm good. Because this is really your applause, so you should be applauding each other. What we're going to do is to facilitate those discussions there are 4 stations: education, economic well-being, health, and family and community. You all have colors on your table, purple, yellow, red. They correspond with each of these things. Make sense? Makes sense. So we're going to ask you to stand up and move there. We're going to spend a few minutes at each station, and then you'll rotate with your table around the room. Before we do that, in about 20-25 minutes, we're going to call you back. You'll see Julie Metzger standing right here. She is going to call us back together, and then we're going to wrap up the program. Everyone feel like you know what you're doing? Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's go.
They're not. We know that. Or it's like $5 a week. Yeah.
When you frame it like these are households with single mothers, and it puts focus on the fact that they're single mothers. These are households where they aren't receiving child
Yeah, they
support.
have one income, and
Right.
there's the likelihood of child support is yes.
Like that's
We're in traffic jam. We're in Muncie. We asked too many questions. I think they asked too many good questions.
Very nervous walking by those kids. It's really interesting.
him actually stop and fix. They will. Usually light bulbs going off.
I'm gonna ask, and you said 1.5-year-old? And attached to your company.
Okay.
And over time, I didn't do it all yesterday.
Should I detach myself?
I think it's the same. It's the same everywhere.
They're afraid.
Hi, everyone. We're just asking you to make your way back to your seat. Wow, that was such an informative way to soak up the numbers. The data boards will remain up after the program ends, so feel free to stick around, go back, take pictures, talk to your colleagues and your friends. This is always such a great morning. I anticipate it for months ahead of time, and Dr. Silverman is right. It is the kind of thing that really helps ground us, but also inspires us. And as we discussed how to really put a face on some of this data, it became more obvious as our conversations went on. My name is Julie Metzger, and I'm a board member at IYI. This event is something that we take to many, many communities, but in Muncie, it has really grown, and so thank you for being here and helping us spread the word. Watasha Barnes Griffin is well known and well loved in our community. It is safe to say that most of you know her already, or at least think you do. In many ways, she is an open book, willing to share her personal experience if it means someone might benefit. Watasha lives a life of service, something she learned from her mother and grandmother, and something she passes on to all of us. I won't go through her resume, we don't have time for that, but here's a little bit of what she's been up to. She is Chief Executive Officer of YWCA Central Indiana, and serves on nonprofit boards, including the Schaefer Leadership Academy, where she is president this year. She serves on the Delaware County Housing Authority Board and is on the Muncie Community School Board. Do you see a pattern? Service, leadership, housing, education. These are the themes of Watasha's life. I met Watasha 10 years ago when we both served on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club of Muncie. At some point during that time, we were intentional about connecting, and we've been nearly inseparable ever since. It's really something to discover a deep friendship as an adult, one that is separate from work and from your children. I cherish it. She is my biggest cheerleader because that is what she does. She cheers you on. She encourages you. She protects you. Watasha and I are both first-generation college. We both grew up with family and friends and communities who kept us safe. We grew up on different sides of Muncie, but in similar environments, single moms, a tight-knit family, and a love for learning. Watasha joined our planning committee for State of the Child several years ago. She brought a level of insight that is uniquely Watasha. We thought it was time you heard from her firsthand. The numbers shared today are harsh and oftentimes hard to imagine, but a life well lived, a life that beat the odds, that's something you can hold on to long after the statistics go cold. Please welcome the incomparable Watasha Barnes-Griffin.
She said incomparable, whoa. Thank you, Julie. We all want our children and youth to have a bright future. How do we accomplish this? As we have heard repeatedly today, it takes everyone. National supports, local leaders, public systems, nonprofits, community members, and parents all must work to ensure that our children get a healthy start, grow up with adults and in communities that support their development, and have the education and preparation necessary to succeed as adults. We tend to think of all these opportunities as improving the well-being of children. In truth, there are thousands of factors that can contribute or detract from the well-being of children. And we must be mindful of the enduring barriers to opportunity that continue to affect the well-being of Black and brown children today. Their challenges are unique, and we need to be mindful of the ways in which we work with them and serve them and their families in school and in community settings. They need people who look like them and understand their particular issues. Representation matters for Black and brown students, and their disparities are real. But for a moment, I want you to just take a moment to reflect and think about the factors and experiences that influenced your own upbringing. I certainly have. Based on my entry into the world, my life could have gone a very different way. And so I embody the model of cradle to career. My name is Watasha Barnes-Griffin, and I am the data. And this is my story. Maybe? That's not my story. Help me out. Oh, see, my supporter over there was like, push that button. So I am the data, right? And this is me. I am the product. See, look at that hair. I was born with it, and I rock with it today. But I am the product of teen pregnancy. My parents were juniors in high school when I was conceived. My mom was 16, and my daddy was 17. My maternal grandmother, Betty Barnes, a recently divorced mother of 6 and a factory worker, and my paternal grandmother, Laverne Clay, a single mother of 7 and also a factory worker, decided that they would help my parents so they could graduate from high school, and they told them that they would take care of Watasha and ensure that Watasha had all of the support she needed to be successful. The alternative for my parents would have been for them to drop out of high school to take care of me, and what would that have led to for me? It was a setup, it could have been a setup for failure. And that is the very moment when my grandparents said that they would help support me, change the trajectory of my life, and the very first seed was planted. My family and community wrapped their arms around me, not even knowing that this would be profound for me. They had no idea what they were doing. They just knew that what they had endured, I would not. And so protective factors, they matter. And the best way to ensure this was to immerse me in any opportunity and all the opportunities for success that they could find. But there are many children who grow up in environments where this is not natural. The interactions with my grandmothers and my parents, the determination to not give up and to ensure that this kid had every opportunity to be successful was unique. Looking for ways to keep me safe and in spaces that would nurture me, planting and rooting me in the good soil, nurturing my love for community and education, because there are kids and families who don't have that type of support, and that's what makes the difference. All kids deserve a healthy start. All kids deserve to grow up with adults and in communities that support their development. All kids deserve to have the education and preparation necessary to succeed as adults. Community support for me. My grandmothers were more concerned with helping others and giving back to community and serving in their churches and in the pantries and at the jails and doing all ministries. And they pulled me along right beside them in all of those instances. And so while my parents continued high school, my mom, a graduate of Southside, and my dad at Central, my maternal grandmother, Betty Barnes, took the core physical responsibility for raising me. But my paternal grandmother was active and she helped in any way that she could. My parents both graduated from high school. My mom had another baby, 2 kids at the age of 19 with 2 different fathers. My dad got a job at Borg Warner at 19, and he remained employed. But my dad had a supplemental income because he was a local drug dealer. My mother worked a variety of jobs, and we grew up in my maternal grandmother's household. And where I grew up wasn't necessarily pretty. I grew up on 5 Points across town is what we call it, the corner of First Street and Macedonia. So out the front door there, that picture, it's the white community. And all I saw was poverty and lack. But out the back door was my black community. And all I saw there was poverty and lack. But my maternal grandmother enrolled me in preschool. And so this is a picture of me in preschool, and it's a friend of mine that I still know today. His name is Robert Evans, but it says, Robert Evans and Watasha Barnes are dressed in graduation finery. They appear to be a little uncertain about going out to face the cold, cruel world of kindergarten as they pose during commencement exercises for preschoolers at the Gateway Center at 1401 East Kirby. I will say that Robert's journey looked a little different from mine. Again, I say the more supportive factors a kid has in place, the likelihood that they will be more successful. That daycare, or that preschool, was 3 blocks away from my childhood home. In fact, my current husband's grandmother was like the director of that program. The connections and supports that we received were, life-changing for me. Again, my grandmother putting me in preschool was a setup for success. Again, she had no idea what she was doing. She just knew that I could learn there, I would be safe, she could be at work, and she didn't have to worry about childcare. But even in doing that, again, she set me up for what would be a solid and strong foundation for learning. So after that lovely graduation from pre-K, I was off to elementary school. Henceforth is my love and appreciation for Muncie Community Schools, and it runs deep, and it's evident from childhood for me, and so that is why I serve on the Muncie Community Schools Board of Trustees. I attended Sutton, Franklin, Muncie Central. I went to Boys and Girls Clubs early on with Motivate Our Minds with the Dollisons. Elder Michael Long, who runs MP3 now, he was teaching and doing after-school work with us even as a kid. My church, YWCA, I went to summer camp every year. I was in advanced reading, I was in ELP, did spelling bee competitions, honors classes through middle and high school, numerous community programs, and lots of volunteer opportunities. My love of books and exposure to after-school programs came at an early age at Sutton Elementary, thanks to my school librarian, Miss Van Fleet. I was around 6 years old when a note went home that I was able to stay after school 2 days a week to be in the reading club, and snacks would be provided. My grandmother and my mom, who was there but just did not have the capacity as a young girl to think through what it would be for me, they had to figure out how I could stay after school to participate because my grandmother had to be at work before reading club ended. But the Sutton school staff helped them figure it out. It takes everyone. I loved my after-school time in the library. Miss Van Fleet and my teacher, Miss Penny Marshall, encouraged me to read up. My reading and writing scores excelled and were above average, and I went from one after-school club to another. Books opened up a whole new world for me. At home in the neighborhood where I grew up, risk factors were everywhere. Crime, alcoholism, incarceration, drug dealing. Despite it all, I continued to thrive and excel. Books took me from my current state and took me to places that I could never imagine. Henceforth, that love continued to grow. I continued to thrive and excel in school. Again, high ability cohorts. I always felt inferior, like I didn't belong there, right? Like, you know, the people that look like me, my friends that look like me, kind of tease because you're so smart, you're nerdy, you like books, you're not doing right. So that was hard for me. But I learned that I did belong there. And so I have to give thanks to Miss Ermeline Faulkner for always encouraging me to be the best version of me in school and to pursue. And she was planting seeds, and she still does that for me today. My grandmother and mother continued to keep me active and involved in school programs, community programs, church activities, learning about opportunities in a variety of ways. But while the protective factors were there, the risk factors were just as strong. Early on, I knew I wanted to do work that helped people and communities. I wanted to help the community that helped me, serve kids like people served me, work and serve kids that looked like me, help kids navigate the educational pathways, volunteer at youth-serving organizations, and tutor kids. But while I was excelling academically, life was happening in real time at home. My mother married a man who had a college degree. He encouraged and helped me to think about post-secondary education in college and career. He had a professional job working for the adult courts. He took a few bribes and he landed in prison. My biological father continued to work and provide for me, but like I told you, he too took an alternate route and he was involved in illegal activity, and he was also incarcerated for a while. Two of my paternal uncles, very close uncles, were imprisoned for murder. And I, with the absence of my two fathers and those male figures in my life, found myself looking for love, and I found myself in an abusive relationship in 10th grade. Very short-lived, because my grandmothers, my aunts, mentors, and mother helped me through this. And I began counseling back then. Black people don't go to counseling. I did. And so, moving through my life, even as a high school kid, I volunteered at the Muncie Public Library. I worked at Reader's World in the mall. My grades remained strong, and so were those protective factors. Muncie Central High School greats like Miss Ruth Red and Mrs. Ann Mutersbaugh set me on the course for post-secondary education opportunities. With their help, I got accepted to the IU Bloomington on a group scholarship. I was excited and I was scared. I had never been away from home and outside of my community. My friends weren't going, so I didn't either. Much to the disappointment of my family, I said I'll just stay and do local community college. I did not start off well. Typical teenage things slowed my progress. So my post-secondary journey was long and windy, unconventional roads, Ivy Tech, Iowa School of Social Work, Indiana Wesleyan, lots of certifications in between, but finally I obtained my Bachelor of Social Work and pursued my master's. And so today, a lifelong learner working in a community that has given so much to me, I believe that if I live in this community, that I must dig in and give back to community. So people say, well, Tasha, you do a lot of things, and I may get emotional. You do a lot of things. I absolutely do a lot of things because I want, and I look at Miss Dollison because I want the best for my community, my black kids, my white kids, my neighbors, the mothers struggling with housing, those who are in addiction. I want them to have the best opportunities. And I know other people are doing it, but I also feel like I need to do it too. I need to do it, not for glory, not for any of these. I just want the future generations of this community to be strong and rooted and grounded. And so God gave me talents and gifts. And when I leave this earth, I want him to say, well, Tasha, what did you do with all the talents I gave to you? And I will say, God, I used them up. So bloom where you're planted. And today I work to ensure housing stability for women and their kids. I do my part to increase education, health, family and community, and economic well-being and outcomes for our children, their families, our school district, my Whiteley and industry neighborhoods, and work to create opportunities for generational wealth for minority businesses in this community with the Muncie, Delaware County Black Chamber of Commerce. I want to enhance the pride and culture and history of my community via the Indiana Black Expo. And all of that is because of the planting and the protective factors that shaped my life. Again, all kids deserve a healthy start. All kids deserve to grow up with adults and in communities that support their development. All kids deserve to have the education and preparation necessary to succeed as adults. That's me in high school. Woo, I had some hair. That is me and my mother and father today. They have made some, we've had some work. We've done a lot of work to not repair because our relationships weren't broken, but they are now able to say, you know what? We didn't know what we were doing, and we're so proud of you today. Like, we are so proud of who you are and what you're doing, and we are so thankful for our parents saying yes. My grandmother, Betty Barnes, has passed away. But my paternal grandmother, Laverne Clay, she is 88, and she is still here alive and living. My mother is now raising my niece and nephew, who are 11 and 13, because their generation, their family trajectory was riddled with drugs and alcohol and addictions, right? So my mother said, I'm going to take my grandkids, and I'm going to do for them what I couldn't do for my daughter and my son, but I can now do it for my grandkids. And so she is raising them. My grandfather is doing some of the same work with some of my stepbrother's kids. They are planting and making amends with their grandkids. They do the same thing for my two kids. Like, they are in love with them, but now they have the capacity to be able to do some of the things that they could not do for me. And so they always give my grandmothers credit, but they are so, so godly proud of me. And in that, I would have to say that sometimes the child becomes the parent, because my mom, while she was 16 and she graduated at 17, then she had another baby at 19, she lived with my grandmother, and then she went from my grandmother's house to a man's house, right? And someone who took care of her. So she never really, so she wanted to be here today. I was like, Mama, don't be here today. But she moved into the house with the man who she was married to, and then when they divorced, it was like a whole new world for her. Like, she didn't know how to use social media. Like, she didn't know how to do bank. Like, it was everything. And it was like, well, Tasha, you're the smart one. Help me, help me, help me. And so as a young kid, I even helped her read. She can write her name. She can read, but she'd be like, read this for me. What does this say? What am I supposed to do with this? And that still happens today. But she is raising those grandkids. Like I said, she works at IU Health Ball Hospital. She is in guest relations. If you walk into Ball Hospital, there is a woman that you will hear from the door to the end of the building, and it's Dorothy, right? But very loving, very kind, but just trying to figure out and navigate life. And so I help her, and I help her with my nieces and nephews to ensure that they also have those things that they need to be successful through middle school and high school. And so now my husband and I, whose path similar, single mom with my husband, same thing, similar paths. We work together to plant those same values and instill community and supports into our own 2 kids. And so we have always been active in the schools. We are at the meetings. We are, prior to Muncie School Board, I was always an active, engaged parent just because I knew how important that was to be there and to be present. I still do it today. My daughter's a junior. My son is a sophomore in college. And I don't do him so much anymore, but it's like to every single teacher, happy beginning of the school year. My name is Watasha Barnes Griffin, and I'm so excited that you and I have the opportunity to help educate my child. We are here for you. Please reach out to me, and we do that. Like, we are educating our kids and partnering together, so I continue to do those things. I try to do it for my son. He's not like, Mom, you cannot email the professor or go talk to the football coach. You just can't do it. So Shaka and Sanaya are products of the same schools. They went to the exact same schools that we went to, Sutton, well, not Franklin, but Sutton and Northside and on to Central. And they have some of the same values, and they value they value education and what education can do for them. They value community. They have no choice but to volunteer and to give back. There are some pressures that they experience. They are teenagers, and they have options. They have the options to stay on this course, but they're faced every single moment with these opportunities as well. And so what we try to do is stand in the middle and just kind of show them what the pathways look like for them. But they are in real time sitting in the same community with the same crime and incarceration. Those same things are there, right? Same friends experience some of the hardships and risk factors, but we encourage them to kind of be that leader, to stand up and choose the right way. But that's also pressure because their mom is Watasha, like everywhere they go, like it's a lot of pressure there too. And so we stopgap that. We're like, counseling for you, like there's nothing wrong. There may not be anything wrong, but we want you to have those outlets to be able to share and communicate things that you may not want to share. And so they got a healthy start. They're growing up with adults and in communities that support their development, and they are currently receiving the education and preparation necessary to succeed as adults. What was planted in me is planted in them. That's me and Shaka Griffin Sr. That is Shaka and Sanaya. And so when we get to protective factors, my family tree is strengthened the more. My kids, again, still face challenges. They're growing up Black. That's one. That is a big challenge. They hang with the friends who are struggling, don't have the same advantages as they do. They see the crime, the drug addiction, alcoholism, educational challenges, and poverty in the neighborhoods where they hang out and in the community in which they live. But I was able to succeed and overcome, and they can too. My grandmothers gave me a superpower to deflect, right? They gave me educational opportunities, stability. They wrapped me with the community supports. My community took me on. They made sure that I was healthy physically and mentally, and I passed that on to my kids and the other 5,000 kids that I have at Muncie Community Schools. Those are my kids, and every decision that I make is not about Sanaya or Shaka or the 500 cousins that I have in Muncie Community Schools, but it's about all of the kids, right? All of the kids, and Dr. K can attest to that, right? My questions are like, how does that affect the kid? How does that affect the family? How is that gonna affect the mother? You know, so that they are all my kids, and I live in that way. The statistics say I should be one of those who did not survive. That might have been said about any of you as well. But not only did I survive, but I thrive. And every day we work to pass it on in how we show up and serve in community. My passions are literacy, education, housing, empowerment of women, families, children, and community. That is my passion, and that is a lot. But it is who I am, and it's what I'm going to be, and you either love it or you don't like it, and you don't have to understand it. I don't need you to, but if I ask for your support, I hope that you join me in that. I am unapologetically who I am. My kids say Muncie community might love you. I'm like, they all don't love me. Some people may be annoyed with me, but I don't care. I stand firm. They're like, if they stayed at home with you for 5 minutes, they would not be crazy about you. I'm like, because I want my house clean and a bedroom. I don't want to see dishes in the sink, right? But yeah, I just have grown into who I am, and I know what skill sets that I have. And even if it's not about a skill set, I just love Muncie, and we are going to be, and we are better than we were. And so we all know what it's like to face obstacles and barriers every day. We also know the difference that having protective factors, support systems, and mentors in place, we know what that does for the lives of youth. And not just youth, but adults. Because adults need protective factors and support systems too, right? But in the words of Project Leadership Executive Director Tammy Pearson, she says that we cannot guarantee a happy childhood, but we can make those experiences both worthwhile and rewarding. We can be there to listen, we can open new doors of opportunity, we can help kids overcome adversity, we can provide the support and systems needed for each child to reach their full potential, and in doing so, we can encourage them and our communities to thrive. Again, it's not about just getting kids to 18. Adults need people. Adults need community. We gain strength from our colleagues, from our faith, from volunteering, the work that we do in our respective fields. We need each other. And giving back is planting in good soil. The results are a stronger, healthier, vibrant, greater community. And so I have that community that grounds me. My work grounds me, my kids ground me, you all ground me. Julie says, you are doing way too much. And Dr. Mia says, you are doing way too much. And I look back at both of them and say, and so are you. But we know what giving back and serving does. We know what that looks like. And we know that things don't change overnight. You looked at all the numbers. We just had these breakout groups, and we see where numbers are decreasing, and we know that that takes time to see the fruit of what we are doing. But we plant today, and it grows tomorrow. And it's a generational shift. It takes generations. We shift as our generations move. And one of the other things that keeps me grounded is, speaking of grounding, is the parable of the sower. And so there is a sower, you all know the story, where that sower goes out and he wants to plant. And so he sows his seed and he's scattering the seed, and some falls by the hard path nearby and birds come and pick it up. And he continues to plant, and some of them fall on soil that's full of rocks, and there's so much dirt around the rocks, so the seeds start to sprout and grow, but the next day, the sun burns them out and takes them away. And in the afternoon, he plants more, and those seeds fall on soil that has been taken over by weeds and thorns. And the weeds and thorns grow faster and taller than the plants from the seed, so the seeds are choked out and the plants die. But then the sower finally plants and puts his seeds in some good ground that's been plowed and fertilized and weeded to make good space for seeds to grow. And those seeds grow up healthy and produce great fruit. And we all know what the seeds are. We all know what this story means. Our kids represent the soil, and the planter is you. Educators, families, after-school programs, mentors, they are trying to support and nurture kids. But if the child's life is filled with hard times and instability and mental health issues and trauma and bitterness, the risk factors outweigh the likelihood of producing a really great crop, right? And so it falls on that hard ground of that kid's life, and it never grows. And there are times that educators and families and mentors and systems are trying to support and nurture kids, and the family and the child is super excited about what's happening and what can take place and the potential. But that excitement fades away because there's no deep understanding and or lack of trust. You don't know me, I don't know, you don't know where I come from. That lack of trust is a big wall. And so again, they simply retreat back to what is normal and what is safe for them. And so that's that seed on that rocky soil, right? And then there is a seed that's planted in the thorns. Educators, mentors, supporters, family, community are right there helping. And the seed is planted, but peer pressures and the negative influences and all the risk factors are around them. They start to choke out the real realities of what could be for them, and they choke it out. But then there's that seed that gets planted in that good soil, that kid that is ready, that family that is ready. They are there for the taking, and you plant the seeds, and you nurture, and you water, and you tend to it, and you pull out the weeds, and you prune. And then one day you see this beautiful fruit. the fruit of our labors, we will see that. We are seeing that. We are moving the needle in our community, in our educational attainment. We are seeing those needles move, and that is what we work so hard for. So keep planting, keep pruning, keep ensuring that you do all that you can to make sure that this seed has the opportunity to grow and bear much fruit. Tammy Silverman said, we acknowledge that the state of Indiana has fewer children living in poverty, fewer whose parents lack secure employment, and fewer living in households with a high housing cost burden. The number of children without health insurance is down, and food insecurity has decreased. The state of the child is good in Indiana, but not good enough. My maternal grandmother has passed on, as I told you. Her love has shifted the family tree, ensuring that the future fruit will be good. But you can see that with my local family. My first cousin, Dr. Mia Johnson, and my first cousin, Willisha Scaife. We are brother and sister's kids, taking what has been instilled in us and using it to service our community in the areas of education, community building, family engagement, and volunteerism. That's what we do. That's who we are. Thank you, Betty Barnes. And I can't turn my page. And not just Mia and Willisha, but our cousins, our kids, our nieces and nephews, our grandkids are learning and doing the same, pursuing education, giving back to community, and planning for future. Our family's collective mission is to service all people, to love all people, to empower, elevate, and encourage all people in our community. Our family tree and our roots run deep in Muncie and Delaware County, and I know you see and feel the impact, and it will continue for generations to come. We are all our ancestors' wildest dreams. Thank you.
Thank you. Every year we try to think of what can bring it home and bring alive the information. And I feel it, and you all must too. That was the right choice for this year, and you all are so fortunate to have Watisha here. Thank you all again for being here. Thanks for the discussions that were started. We encourage you to think of it as a start and a continuation of the conversations and the good work that you're doing. Please know that Indiana Youth Institute is here to help you in your missions, and we have staff embedded across the state and right here in your community. So if you don't know Dawn already, you should. So reach out and please let us know, and thanks again for being here.